I said I don't think I need this. I don't. You guys can all hear me, right?
Yes.
It's great to be here. I love this store. We were just talking about, these great independent bookstores and how, how they for a while seemed like they were a vanishing species, and then they've sort of come back. And I go around now and I see, more and more activity taking place at small bookstores and private bookstores. And I'm excited to be here. I normally start by talking about my dyslexia. I'm not going to do that tonight because I assume many of you have heard it before. If later on anybody wants to ask me any questions about it, I'm totally open to discussing it, and but rather than run through a litany that you guys have already heard, I thought what I would do tonight was to tell you why I wrote this book. Because I think The Pallbearers is probably a book I should have written maybe 2 books earlier than when I did. And I realized that as I was writing it, that it was a book that, that filled in some interesting holes in Shane's backstory and allowed me to deal with him as a more complete guy moving forward from the end of this book. As you guys may recall, if you don't, but if you may, he was an orphan. He was left in a hospital, an infant with a name on him, with a number on him, excuse me. He was sent off to the foster, care system in L.A. He ended up, kind of as an angry, thuggish kid in foster care. He beat up other children, he took their stuff. He was not a pleasant, nice guy. And there was one person that he ran across early in his career when he was in foster care, and that was a guy named Walter Pop Dix. And Walter Dix ran the Huntington House group home. He was the guy who basically invested in these children and made them into something more than they would have otherwise been. And Shane was aware of the fact that this guy had made huge investments in him, and actually been the person to convince him that there was more in life than just getting the guy's money that you're sleeping above, or any of the other things that were part of his life, but that there were in fact other values that were important in that. But he was so young, and he was so angry, and he was so selfish that he never really thanked him, as did none of the other kids either. I mean, they were just basically survivors. He left the Huntington. He stayed there until he went into the Marines. He ended up becoming a police officer, and I leave the Huntington House experience behind. We meet him in the Tin Collectors. He's dark, he's angry, he's just a recovered alcoholic. All of this stuff sort of byproducts of the Huntington House experience. And then as he goes along through the 9 novels that I've written, he actually becomes a very valuable and kind of worthwhile person, because he softens, he becomes more of a humanist, and so he really is, when we meet him at the beginning of this book, a fairly well-formed human being, with a wife that he loves, that he's absolutely devoted to, with a son who's playing football at USC, probably won't ever get on the field. I'm trying to decide whether he's going to take some snaps in the next book, but at any rate. But he is a completely formed guy, and he has he has a much better life. And at the beginning of this novel, he gets a call from a woman named Diamond Peterson, and she runs the office at the home at Huntington House. And she notifies him that last night Walter Pop Dix went into his backyard with a shotgun, blew his head off, and left a note on his desk for the 6 people that he wanted to be pallbearers at his funeral. It surprises, well, it knocks him way back, because he had never gone back and thanked this guy. He'd been there twice in 25 years. And why didn't he go back? He didn't go back because he didn't want to confront that memory in Pop Dix's eyes of who he used to be. And and there's a lot of darkness that's associated with that part of his life. And so he took the easy road. He didn't go. And now it's too late. Now he can't go back and, you know, and make this right. He can't tell this guy how important he was to Shane as a child. He goes to the funeral. Alexa and Shane are, at the beginning of this book, are getting ready to take their 2-week vacation in Hawaii. They schedule their police department vacations to coincide, and they push it back a couple of days, and they go to the funeral. And he meets the other pallbearers, and what a group! I mean, all of them are graduates from Huntington House. All of them different ages. There's a Hispanic attorney named Sabas Vargas. Sabas he practices law in Boyle Heights. He basically gets the gangbangers that the LAPD is arresting out of jail. There is an African-American woman, her name is Siriana Cotton. She's one of those kind of great statuesque kind of women who's almost 6 feet tall and who could accurately be described as handsome. And she's going back, she's 23, she's going back for her second tour in Iraq. She's a Marine. There is a Diamond Peterson who works in the office, and she's kind of like almost the house mother in a way. I mean, she's 35, younger than Shane, but she's sort of, you know, she's the one who pulls it together. She organizes the funeral and all of that. There is a woman named Vicky Levicki. And Vicky Levicki is an accountant at an accounting firm in Century City called Kinney and Glass. And she's just one of these kind of people that just, she's, you know, you give her any trouble at all, and she'll be in your face with a bulldog, a 44 bulldog that she carries in her purse. You know, she is, you know, she's a little bit of a live wire, a little bit of a, you know, I mean, I thought she was a great character to write. And then the last person who arrives, he arrives 15 or 20 minutes late, holding up the entire funeral, is a guy named Jack Straw. Jack Straw kind of looks like Tommy Lee, you know, he's got greasy hair, he's good looking, but he's got prison ink all over him. You know, in the state of California, we use the pens that we send to the penal system have a very distinctive blue-green ink, and most cops can spot California tats because from the penal system because of that color. And this guy has got these blue-green tattoos all over him. These are the pallbearers. They carry the coffin. They go back afterwards to the home for the reception. And none of these people think that Pop would have killed himself. The guy was kind of, I mean, he was a surfer. He used to take them all surfing at 6 a.m. in the morning before school. You know, he had this kind of Zen quality to him. He only spoke pidgin when he was around a surfboard. What the matter, you howdy guy? Your face go all jam up? You know, he's just, you know, he just talks, you know, he's from the North Shore of Hawaii, and they just don't believe this guy would have gone back and solved his problems with a shotgun in the backyard. And they're trying to get Shane to look into it, and he wants to look into it. He believes also that Pop wouldn't have done that. He don't want to do it with them. I mean, they're a bunch of amateurs, you know, they're going to screw up the case. But the problem is that there is no case. The coroner has judged it a suicide. There's no homicide number against it. There's nothing that Shane can do to stop these people from investigating to their heart's content. And so in order to keep them from screwing up this case, he has to gather them all up. And it's like herding cats, you know, to try and get them to go where he wants them to go. But they turn out, say again?
The Baker Street Irregular.
That's right.